Hello, everyone. Welcome. We love you. We're excited to be with you as always, as ever, and as will always be. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate the support more than ever, and we hope that we are all being Ramaji and I pray that we are managing to support each of you to the very best of our ability during these very weird times on our planet. So we're going to have such an amazing satsang today, because the main themes we really wanted to touch on was how to look at what's going on in our world from a very, very, I would say, mature, developed consciousness. And that is the nature of consciousness. It is mature, it is all loving, all encompassing, all present, and is able to and needs to expand. So we're seeing this expansion take place on a mass level. And it's something that I remember, when was it? I remember when I was going through such terrible times. When was it? I would say roughly when I wrote my book, somewhere there. And I remember mentioning in my book the purge. And I remember the dream I had had. And I'm not a woo-woo person. I'm not a woo-woo person, and I'm not a psychic. I'm not a crystal gazer, nor am I a prophet. Just a normal woman. But that particular dream woke me up in the middle of the night because there was a tidal wave. And at that time I had already awakened, and I had or maybe it was before I had awakened completely. I forget, but there was a mass tidal wave. I think it was after. And I was standing in Cape Town, my old home, on the balcony. And I remember seeing this giant wave that I knew that nothing on the planet could possibly survive this. It was like an extinction event. And that I also knew there was a calmness around my sense of awareness, or whatever you want to call awareness, Brahman, God, knowingness of my beingness, that there was nothing that could really happen here. It was all going to be okay. And I was trying so hard to help the people around me understand not to be afraid. Stop with the fear. You know, the fear is not going to help us. And there was nothing I could do to stop this fear except for just being present, being calm, being very aware what was going on, and standing there till the wave hit me. And that's when I woke up. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not so much what happens in life, it's the response we have to what happens in life. What is our ability to respond to whatever the situation has to be? That is really the meaning of the word responsibility. So we're going to talk about how positive this can be, because I know from that particular dream came an entire book, and then a purge in my life that I just said to Ramaji, I said, this is going to be a lot bigger than me. You know, something's going on here. And it has, you know, almost like clockwork. So what I mean to say is we are all facing a certain ability to respond in this particular moment in time as a collective, which is a first, because I've never seen anything more global take place. But we get to respond as a collective by not dividing, hating, wishing harm on, but actually uniting as a humanity, because that is the only way we get to survive this. Okay, so it's not so much about whether, you know, one side is right or wrong. It's about seeing through that, understanding that we all have certain freedoms, inalienable rights, and coming together as a collective and dealing with the problems that we are all facing as a collective. And that's, in my opinion, what needs to happen. Whether enough of us get this or not, and are able to inject this into society or not, remains to be seen, and I truly don't know. I just know that I can play my part, as can each of you. And as each awakened person plays their part, this vibration on the planet is going to soar. It's going to soar in ways that we have never known before. Because, as you know, with all kind of every form of polarity that exists on this planet, every down follows an up and every up follows a down. And when the down is this extreme, you can be sure so is the up. So remain centered in that certainty, which I have. It's a certainty in everything is always working out. Whether we understand why, how, or what, or if we don't know, or how long we're going to all have to go through this kind of insanity for, we don't know, but we can all be a voice of reason, of hope, of love, of compassion, and realizing that there are some things in life that are much bigger than little me. Little me and my little I. So, yeah, what do you want to say about all that?
Well, we live in very special, very unique times. I think, I mean, totally unique. Never has happened before, at least in recorded this collective awakening and this collective purge. We even have movies about the purge. You know, it's really quite amazing what's going on with movies as far as pointing to things.
Here, Ramaji.
Who is saying that?
Joshua and Eckhart Schultz.
A lot of people are saying that?
Okay, now.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'm not, we can turn up the volume. Maybe I'll do that.
Better?
Oh, let's talk. I'll talk. Okay, so, all right, good. So we live in times that are very unique, totally unique. As far as I know, they've never happened. It's a collective awakening. And in order for there to be this awakening, just like in the individual journey of awakening, there is a purge. There is an elimination of darkness, the facing of the shadow, the confrontation with the shadow. And that's what's going on. Whatever side or perspective or belief system or whatever you're operating from, it is clear that a lot of negative is being exposed, revealed, expressed, etc. I believe that anyone who is here now, alive now, including all of you, including me and Ananda, we are here because we chose to be here. And we chose to be here at this time. And we basically have a choice, as do all the human beings on the planet right now, all 7 billion plus of us. We have a choice. Shall we be part of the solution, or shall we be part of the problem? What is going on is there is no halfway. There is no maybe. There is no gray area. You are either yes or no. Now, how can we know what to be yes or no for? Well, it's actually pretty simple. This is, we have to stand up for what we believe personally, and perhaps know that which is the highest, the best, the most pure, the most good, that which is the closest to love and wisdom and kindness and compassion and mercy, and being positive and being joyful in the face of this, the most difficult challenge the human race has ever faced. So that's our choice, and I believe that's why we're here. So of course, we want to share information. Of course, we want to communicate and be with people who share our perspective, support each other. But ultimately, you know, we ask, well, what can we do? And again, we're not going to talk about which side and what view, and we're not going to talk about, you know, those specifics today. We're going to talk about the big picture and the deeper level, which is, what do you choose to radiate? What do you choose to emanate? What is the consciousness that you are bringing? Don't let them, whoever they are for you, whoever they are for you, don't let them dictate your consciousness. Every single day, you dictate your consciousness. You are making a conscious choice. Now, guess what? It's not any different than it ever was. Every single day we've been alive as a human being, before all of this happened, before COVID, etc. Before that happened, it was the same. every day that we had was the only day that we knew for sure we would be alive. Each day was the only day that we knew for sure we could bring everything that we are and everything that we have and everything that we can give to this moment, to the people we're with, to what we're doing, to this day. That's it. We didn't know about tomorrow. I mean, honestly, no one can say, I know for sure I will be alive tomorrow. So the bottom line here is the same. The foundation is the same. And in a certain sense, and without hopefully sounding too macabre or too nihilistic or something, it is about death. It means why do I choose to be alive today? What motivates me to be alive today? How do I choose that? Because of death. So the people who are being manipulated in the scenario unfolding in our global culture at this time, from my point of view, I look and I see, how are they being manipulated? They're being manipulated out of fear of death. So I'm not saying that we're all going to die. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you have not yet come to terms with death, physical death, not spiritual death, and have faced your fear, then you can be manipulated through that, through identification with the physical body. Now, that doesn't mean anything bad's going to happen. I'm not being a prophet. I'm not a prophet anymore. Actually, Ananda is more of a prophet than I am. But I'm saying, no, I'm talking about the same principle the Buddha talked about, Jesus talked about, all the great masters talked about, which is, this is it. Today is it. Give your all, live as if this is the only day you know that you have. So that to me is the essence. And also to understand, if you're not clear, to really investigate, did I choose to be here at this time? Because if you did, then you have a mission. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to give Zoom Satsangs like we are, although it could mean that. But it does mean you're here, you have a track, a path, a script that you can follow, that you chose to come here and fulfill. I don't know what you would call her, but she was a quantum hypnotherapist, Dolores Cannon, said, many of us are here, but to help, that's why we're here. But because life on this world is so dense and so challenging, especially right now, we forget why we're here. We forget our mission. So I'm saying to you, we're saying to you, get in touch with what your mission is. This is a time where having a mission and being a warrior, being a spiritual warrior is the answer. That's how to come to terms with this.
It's just so needed. It's just so needed. No, it's funny, in our life, what Ramaji and I do, like, we always find it so tremendously enlivening, and I don't think they can hear me. Someone's giving me their ear. Can you hear me? Should we turn it up more?
No, it's really.
Yeah, it's not so good. Go up more.
I think I have an observation. I think what's happening is your mic, when the speaker shifts, it takes a little bit of time, maybe 10 seconds for it to recognize the new one has come to the voice. Something like that is happening, I think.
Got it.
Thank you. I think you're 100% right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, just let me know. Just give me the ear again.
Thank you. That's brilliant.
Okay, so yeah, I don't remember what I was saying, so I'll go on to whatever it is that I'm going to say next. I wanted to remind everyone that part of being a conscious, awakened person, fundamentally, at least for most people that we speak to, and I always find it amusing because whenever we start with people, it's like, our job is an amazing job because we know who each of you is long before you do. And then the job is just to kind of try and eliminate all the areas where you're confused about who you actually are. And by the time we've done doing that, you don't need the gurus or teachings anymore because you're the guru and the teaching. That's really the point of why we have sessions in the first place. But our knowing of you never shifts. It never could and it never would. because we know that you're all the self. So with that knowing how you can see this work spiritually, is there comes a certain degree of what I call human dignity and mutual respect. It certainly doesn't mean that I like everyone. I certainly don't really like Bill Gates, for example, and I'll be honest and say that. But I know that somewhere there, maybe that, unless he's not from this planet or a demon, and I don't even know what I believe about that. But I would like to think that in there is a human being, and he has forgotten who he is. He has forgotten how interconnected and important he is, but not on the level that he seems to be claiming his importance through kind of manipulation and control. So, and that's just an example of how we forget who we are, and it manifests for each of us really differently. The whole point of awakening is coming back to that fundamental foundation of knowingness, the knowingness of your beingness. That's why people meditate. There's no goal. You are meditating to develop a love affair with your own self. That's why a practice is important, because you need to become the expert on your own self. Who else can be if you are not? I'm certainly not the expert on yourself. You are. You know, again, the hierarchy is in your minds. There is none. And this not only pertains to spiritual kind of, what I mean is spiritual development and maturity. It actually, it means everything. You know, even a scientist can be more knowledgeable, or a doctor, about medicine, but he's not more knowledgeable about your human temple. He's not you. His essence you share, but your body is your own. That's my point. So that's the way this kind of works when it comes to individuation. And, you know, it's so funny, but I would say one of the most freeing things that happens during awakening is that sense that, oh my God, I am free. I am a free individual. And with that freedom comes, I'm so free, I can choose what I want to be attached to. I'm so free that I can allow myself to be in a mood, even if it's not a good one, because that's what arises in me. I'm free to be me. There's nothing wrong here with who I am, unless you're a complete psychopath or mass murderer, but I'm assuming most spiritual people are not. You know, but it's so easy to get trapped into that thinking that the concepts about non-attachment and freedom are somehow a mind concept, like I'm not attached to my children. Who isn't attached to their children? Why would anyone not want to be? Of course you are, because that's coming back to being a human being. You're deeply attached, just like I'm deeply attached to what happens to mankind in the generations to come, as we should all be, when we're facing the collective and we know we're a part of it and we can influence it. So the question I ask myself daily, even though I don't always feel it, is what would love do now? And that question will always help you, motivate you to do whatever it is in that moment love would do now. You know, just before we're ready to get all antsy or have, and sometimes love would have an argument, by the way, make no mistake. There is such thing as righteous anger and righteous love. My son comes home drunk and he's been driving and the shit's going to hit the fan in my home, because I'm going to care about his life and his death. So having said all that, there's some questions I want you all to think about. What does freedom mean to you? And it's so individual. It's pretty amazing. Most people never contemplate the question. They don't even know what it means. And I'll tell you what it means. It's actually the freedom from your program, friends. It's the freedom from the program that drives you just about every single day of your life. The patterns of thinking and the way you were raised and the ridiculous belief systems, more often than not, all based in crap that we were told. All that you have to see is just a bunch of useless beliefs. For the most part, you can actually see them as that and let go. But ask yourself, what do I believe and why do I believe it? And is it fundamentally true? Next question. What is joy? for you? And can there be joy with no freedom? Or are they similes in a sense? And I want you to contemplate, please don't answer. Okay? Because for each of you, it's going to be different in your lives. Remember, we are the masters of our own destiny. And as a collective, we are all playing a part in the collective's destiny. Please understand this. It's not like a walk in the park kind of decision we're making here. This is the destiny of the collective in many countries globally. What is your stand? Why are you taking that stand? What do you believe? And what are you doing about it? For some people, it's just finding a teacher, getting your sessions with the will to wake up. That's huge. It starts there. Okay, and then what are your opportunities, or can you see how, as a society or as a collective, what we all need to recognize as well is this is all of our problem. Whether we were directly involved in any past agreements in history, we are still agreeing to that agreement. So we are all responsible for our own lives and, in a sense, these collective agreements that we've made in the past. Therefore, when we see that certain agreements no longer gel on a personal level or as a collective, what happens is we decide as a collective to change our agreements. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes like, oh my God, look what I'm learning. I've expanded so far past that agreement that I'm actually seeing for the first time how this, and this doesn't work anymore. It needs to be shifted and changed. We start doing that with our own inner work. And then it kind of organically mutates into the work that you do in this beautiful, exquisite outside world. And that happens quite organically. You don't have to worry much about that. But still, we are all a part of collective agreements right now, and they're becoming clear. In just all of us, we live in different countries, maybe different states, different cities, with a different mass collective agreement on certain issues or not. But that doesn't mean you can't stand your ground in whatever it is that means something to you. You matter. You matter more than you could ever believe how much you matter. You truly matter. You're not just another cog in the wheel. You're not just another brick in the wall, because without that piece of the brick, however big or small it is, the wall is no longer a wall. There is a hole in it. And every brick counts in order for that wall to stand strong. And the brick happens to be humanity, the wall. We're the wall. We the divine that gives all this beautiful world all its meaning. Without us, would there be any meaning? And most of us don't know that, because we're injecting it with our consciousness, and that consciousness is compassion and meaning. So when you recognize that about who you are, you can really choose to inject the best meaning into every situation, but not to the point that you're an idealistic fool. See situations as they are, not as you wish they were. All right, so we're going to move on to one more question, and then it's all on to Ramaji. What would you say the greatest freedom is of all? When you think of freedom. And I thought about this recently more than ever. The most important thing, without which there is no life, could never be the freedom to breathe. The air, breath. If you are not free to breathe in oxygen and out your toxins, can you call yourself free? And I'm just asking that question. You're not. I mean, this is so important right now. Okay, does any human being have the right to take away the freedom of breath from another? I would say maybe there could be some circumstance, like if everybody was dropping dead outside, I may consider it. But other than that, not really. So ask yourself these questions about what's going on and what freedom means to you and how important is this. And from that space, you will come from a place of self-knowing, self-recognition. And from that space comes, oh my God, I see everybody before me with the same human destiny, the same right to pursue happiness, the freedom to breathe, the freedom to individuate, and the freedom to be themselves. And I can tell you it is not easy individuating. You will lose some friends. You may lose some family, because that's the nature of authenticity and individuation. You're not part of a herd. You never were, else we'd be zebras. Okay, so that I hope that adds something to your thought process. All we're doing, Ramaji and I, is I don't even know what it is that we do, but I do know this much. I think we just try and inject as much like reality into reality. You know, this is it. Okay, Ramaji.
I'm just waiting for the sound. Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay. All right. Thanks so much for several people had good comments about the sound, so thank you. Well, those are awesome remarks. And then I'm going to amplify on that. So what we're talking about today are eternal principles, spiritual principles. But we are seeing, and no doubt you are in your own way, seeing an extraordinary confusion when it comes to what does it mean to be a spiritual or awakened or enlightened or conscious human being nowadays. And our analysis of the situation is that the spiritual teachers or people who are in a position to lead in the spiritual area, the religious area, the heart area, many of them have not actually taken this process of realization and awakening and gone full circle with it and actually come back to the world as it really is. Exactly what Ananda said, this is it. So for example, what does it mean if you have gone a full circle as a self-realized person, self-actualized person, a person in a state of self-recognition? What would that look like? How would you act? What would you say? Well, the bottom line is going to be self-recognition leads to a profound sense of self-worth, of much greater than ever before valuation, sense of preciousness about your uniqueness, your individuality, and that you are here to express the ultimate, the reality, God, the self, the true self.
Way.
Yes, in your own unique way. So for example, the Buddha said that when you're an enlightened person, you have changed lineage. You are now a noble human being. You are now a royal human being. And in Christianity, we are told you are a son or daughter of God. And Ramana Maharshi, in his Eastern culture, actually would say, you are God. So if we take that for a moment, I am God. What does that say about my body? Your body, or I'm a son or daughter of God, or I'm a part of God, whatever words you want to use that you're comfortable with. What does it say about your body? Your body is a divine temple. And it is the house, the home for your soul, your spiritual essence. And therefore, any invasion of your body is a spiritual violation. Now, there's a disease. I'm going to change subjects now a little bit, but it's all related. There is a disease that's very widespread. Again, still talking about what does it mean to have a truly practical, realistic, spiritual understanding at this time in terms of what actions shall we take, what decisions shall we make. And that is what we have talked about many times, which is spiritual bypassing. Understand that if you've come full circle so that you live in this world as it is, so that this very world, you know, this can of pure sparkling water is Buddha nature. It is the Buddha, it is God, it is Jesus Christ, it is the ultimate reality. This world, very world as it is. And if you haven't come full circle to see that, you're not done and you're not finished. And what you're saying very possibly would be a form of spiritual bypassing if you're giving advice. So what does that spiritual bypassing look like? Well, one way that it is languaged is the confusion of the absolute and the relative. So what does that mean? That means if I'm somebody who's not finished, it hasn't gone full circle to fully embrace this world as it is, as the very Buddha or the true self or God, if I haven't done that yet, if I haven't gotten there yet, then I'm going to say maybe, hey, everything is God, so it's all okay, it's all perfect just as it is. Okay, so that means if I'm walking in the woods and I come across a bear, or I actually want to say a rattlesnake, that's my favorite metaphor. There's this rattlesnake coiled up there. Now that rattlesnake is God, Buddha nature, Christ consciousness, true self, the absolute. No question. Ananda and I would absolutely say that. But when you confuse the absolute and the relative, you think that that means you could go up and kiss that rattlesnake, all coiled up, and its rattler shaking. And if you ever heard a rattlesnake shaking its tail, it's a bizarre sound. It's a scary sound. Okay, so it's ready to strike, and you decide, oh, it's God, it's Buddha nature, I'll give it a kiss. Now, if you get bitten, you're a fool. You were a fool for doing that. And what you did, even if you're an awakened person, what you did is you confused the absolute and the relative. Okay? So what we're saying is, like somebody else, another metaphor was, you know, you don't really want to become one with the speeding car. Okay, it's all one, right? So can I do that? No, you don't want to do that. So we're inviting each one of you in your own way, from your perspective, from your value system, just examine and ask the question, am I confusing the absolute and the relative? Are some of the people I'm listening to confusing the absolute and the relative? Bottom line, this is all about asking questions. This is all about asking the right questions. Never in human history has it been more important to ask questions and challenge authority. The truth is, not just now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years, 1,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, we could not trust authority. We could not trust the government. We could not trust the kings and queens that were in power. We could not trust the dictators, okay? We could not, it's become corrupt, you know? So it's been that way for a long time. Therefore, you know, this isn't about current events as much as current events are so huge right now. It's about eternal principles, which is, do not let authority tell you what to do with your body, with your life, with your breath, with your family, with your job, etc. Okay? Osho, who many of you know, Rajneesh know of, one of his favorite quotes, and I can't quote it, but I remember the essence of what he said. He says, the enlightened person, the truly enlightened person, is either a threat to society or not valued by society. In other words, he's a waste. Why? Because he doesn't care about all that stupid stuff. He doesn't care about having a bigger TV. He doesn't care about having a yacht. He doesn't care about having the latest fashion. He's useless to society at best and a threat to society, he or she, at worst, from society's point of view. So a truly enlightened person who's gone full circle, you know, they're not just spacing out, just detached, living on a mountain. They're a living, walking threat to society, the unconsciousness of society, and the unconsciousness of authority. A living, breathing threat.
I would say a rebel.
Yeah, well, that was where I was going. I was going to, his word for that was rebel. You are automatically a rebel, even in the most peaceful, harmonious times. If you are a truly enlightened person who's gone full circle, so that they are living life for real, not confusing the absolute and relative, but really living this moment each day to the fullest, you're a rebel. Automatically, you're a rebel.
So what are we seeing right now? We're seeing right now a kind of a separation. It seems like there's a split going forward. It's those that are more conscious and aware, and those that are just kind of going with the story, that have no consciousness at all about what's going on or why, and think that all this is kind of normal. There are those people out there, but they're getting much fewer, which is an amazing thing to see. So here is this amazing opportunity for the collective to see where this is going and awaken from this, what some people are saying, this matrix of insanity, and make better collective decisions. The problem is, as with every kind of expansion of consciousness, comes the deletion of everything that used to make sense. In other words, the ending of, I would say, a lot of structural things that, and organizational and governmental things that just no longer make any sense in our civilization. That's why we've grown past it. We've evolved past the old structures. And just like with any bureaucracy, the last thing they want to do is take the time or trouble to change what has to be changed. So they cling to the same old power, control, money, and will do whatever it takes to remain in control, because these kinds of energies need that control to feel good about who they are. The definition of love is not about control. In fact, if you love something, anything, another human, a dog, whatever it may be, you love them enough to want for them what they want for them. Not what you want for them. That's controlling them. What right do you have? So I would say that the clarity between living, but that's quite a good question from Patrick, and we'll get there, Patrick. I was going to talk a little bit about natural curiosity as being a part of the awakened mind. That's because we no longer believe all those old beliefs. So what do we believe? We get to choose, we get to explore, we get to be curious. We get to read, we get to examine, we get to ask questions. We're no longer just going to say, yes, why? Because, oh, my professor told me. Professor of what? And who the hell is he anyway? Don't you want to know for yourself? You know, and what the little I does is everything it can to prevent you from opening up that awareness to being much bigger than little you. It keeps it so solidified, the energy that it takes to continuously reimagine and remanifest that same little I all day, every day is exhausting. As soon as you see it for what it is, though, you stop paying attention to it, and that is the answer. So I would say that living with an open heart, as hard as these times are going to make it to live this way, that's the test of time. The only thing that ever heals. Love. It's too simple for the mind to ever grasp, which is why they've made it so hard to understand that, oh God, I can just have love and compassion and the whole world would be a different place in an hour. Secondly, optimism. Being yourself should be optimistic. Why not? I understand everyone is wired differently, but that's okay. Even if you're not wired to be openly optimistic, you can change that agreement with yourself at any point. Self-love. Love yourself as you are, which will organically move into loving others. And then be the lighthouse. You know, in other words, your awareness can light up the shadow. Now, the shadow isn't dark necessarily. For many of you, many of your good points are in the shadow. Your energy could be in the shadow. Your optimism could be in the shadow. Your adequacy could be in the shadow. Your spontaneity can be in the shadow. People have this idea that the shadow is only this negative side of myself. No, not for everyone. Your vulnerability could be in the shadow. But you want to shine the awareness of what is in the shadow so that you realize it's there. And then you deal with whatever it may be, dark or light or in between. Okay, it's important. And lastly, courage. This time is going to take tremendous courage. More courage than we could ever imagine. And it's going to look frustrating, agonizing, and sometimes depressing. Nothing changes overnight. And what we are going to see may be even just very hard. But I think that when we pass it, and if more of us can stand with courage and love and an open heart and do what is needed about it, we can help. And that's all that matters. Even a smile on your face, an optimistic, you know, an arm around a person's shoulder, giving someone a hug is helping. The little things matter. And it's going to take courage. And then the last point is I'm saying the long game. This is the long game, friends. This is not something that's going to end in a day or a week, and I wish it would. But it's gone too far. So we're going to see the long game. And it's going to take strength, humility, and a complete certainty in who you are. When you know you're that, you're willing to play any game, the long game, the short game, whatever game is. But you'll fight to the nth for your freedoms. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Really make you guys understand, A, that these are not normal times. B, that any idea that they are is you are bypassing spiritually. You need to then start to do some research, see what's going on in this world, and think about what's going on, or the part you want to play in it. Okay? Whatever part that is, but just let it be a part. So, and yeah, and that's my little part in this. I'm just looking at, I really would love to see so much authenticity right now. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel horrified. It's okay to feel helpless, worthless. What can I do? Like, why is this happening? All that stuff is going to come up. And you're just a lot bigger than that. That's my point. Let it come and let it go. If you're not a human being, at the end of this show, at the end of your awakening, first and foremost, you are not a finished person. If you are preaching some kind of bliss that doesn't exist continuously ever, unless maybe when you die at some point, if you are preaching some kind of transcendence from being a human being, you are simply not finished. You're in a state. And it can last for years. No one needs to transcend because everything is that. What is to transcend and who precisely is transcending? You to also really have to understand that. Okay, because this really is it, okay? So yeah, that's good so far. So far, so good. What else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, okay. Okay, that was awesome. So, as one boxer said, when you're in the ring, this is apropos of what Ananda was saying, and apropos of, being discouraged, disheartened, depressed, angry, frustrated, etc. Whatever you're going through on the negative side. It's not how many times, the boxer said, it's not how many times you fall down. meaning you fall into a negative mood or something like that. It's how many times you get up. So we live in, from our point of view, this is a war. This is a battle. It's a spiritual battle every single day. Now, that doesn't have to be depressing. That can be energizing and enlivening. That can bring you to the, right to the living, burning edge of what it means to be human, what it means to be alive here and now, so that you actually are motivated to smell the roses.
To wake up.
Smell the roses now, not later. Because this is it. It's more, this is it now than it ever was. So there's no riding the fence, okay? And I thought it was brilliant what Ananda said. She asked the question, and I just said, wow, that is maybe the question. What is love? What is love? Okay? Because what's happened in our world, not just recently, but for the many thousands of years, is either people don't know what love is, or they don't stand for it, they don't stand up for it, they don't express it, they don't commit to it. So, Ananda, your point was brilliant. What does love do in relationship to other people? Does it control them? Does it tell them what to do? Does it invade them? Or does it want for that person what they want for themselves? Does love want control over them for whatever reason? Or does it want them to be happy on their own terms? Okay? So those who would exploit and manipulate, who use the fear of bodily death to get what they want, to dictate their control. If you understand what love is, you know that's not love. It's really not love. So we each ourselves must embody the solution, which means embody love to the best of our ability as we understand it. And that understanding can grow and evolve, but take it from where you're at now and fill it in, embody it, make it flesh, make those choices, take those actions, share that knowledge, call that person, email that person, meet with that person, whatever. But love, what is love? If you don't know what it is yet, if you can't answer that question, if you can't see it in terms of the behavior of others, then you need to define that for yourself. Ananda and I can look out and we can see who out in the world and with people, we can see who's coming from love and who is coming from fear. There was a book, I forget what it's called, but I'm sure somebody here knows, where the author talked, Jan Paulsky was the author, and they made it very simple. It's love versus fear.
Always has been.
Now, it may not be that the person is afraid, but somebody is manipulating them from fear or manipulating to activate their fear and maintain their fear, to traumatize them.
And in many ways, that is a part of our programming. And it's so important to see this as your programming. We have all been raised in some way. Don't speak to strangers. You know, this is dangerous, that's dangerous, everything's so dangerous. You know, we have really raised children and become a world whereby fear, whether we want to face that or not, in our own belief systems, has motivated so many of our choices. And here we are at like the precipice of choice, where we can actually see that, am I really going to let fear, this feeling, I mean, it's really a feeling, dictate how I live my life? And am I going to allow it to permeate within my society or be involved in that in any way? And if so, why? Show me the science, please. I want to know. Explore. And you can see how manipulative and powerful fear is. It's never as powerful as love. Love and fear cannot coexist. Remember that. So whatever choice you make, if it's coming out of fear, it will not be from love. A choice made out of love has no fear, and that is what you are. You are an expression of love. So the fear that you feel, like the feelings we have in the old program that thinks, is simply doing what it always has, does, and always will do. It will keep on repeating the same belief over and over and over again. And that belief is to sometimes make us believe in some kind of fearful event or something in the future or the past, and shame, blame, I mean, all sorts of unbelievable crap. It's a program. So what happens when you want to change your program? It's what you listen to. It's who you read. It's who you spend your time with. How does that make me feel? So when you're watching or you're going out, I mean, recently it was quite unbelievable, really. You know, my daughter came to visit me from San Diego, and she's going to college, came to spend a week here in Sedona with us. And she is more of a, I would say, a teenage believes her government. She is in the process of, you know, she's going to college. She is very, very much of a liberal. And I find her to be one of the most fascinating people to talk to, because I disagree with her fundamentally on so many issues. But my job is not to inject her with what I believe. It's to rather just really enjoy her uniqueness and individuality, but within reason. In other words, I'll plunk in a thought or an idea when I believe that she could think of something in a different way. And that's the best way to really address people that aren't necessarily thinking in the same way as you are. God, I love her more than I could ever. I mean, I just love her more than life itself. You know, and I can, but I am so aware of her, of respecting this process she's on. She's only 19. Why would I want to inject further fear into my 19-year-old at this time? No. You know, my job was actually to help her think for herself in the first place. And if I fail to do that job right now, it's seemingly so, she's had a lot of influences around her, so be it. I can help change that slowly but gradually, but she's always going to be her own person. So that's kind of how you deal with this, without a sense of judging another self, rather by trying to inject a different idea, a peaceful moment, and also being a place where you are not afraid to agree to disagree and love a person for their alternate opinion, even if you think it's one of the dumbest you've ever heard, until it comes to attack me. Because my decision is not in the same form of alignment. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I don't go along to get along. I respect others, and I would love nothing more than just to feel another human dignity, mutual respect back towards me and my decisions. That's all we can ask for. So as a collective, we have a job to do, and that is the freedom to choose. Our birthright, free will, it's called. You know, a lot of people have often looked at the 10 Commandments, interestingly, and I've often heard from a lot of people that, in a way, thou shalt not. In a way, thou shalt not is kind of a weird command, isn't it? It's telling us what we should or shouldn't do. And yet it is so valuable because it's so enshrined in morals and values and, you know, what seemingly is the right program for humanity. Don't kill, don't steal, don't know this, that. How many people abide by the 10 Commandments? All the time. Why do you think that is? Ever thought of that? An old religious document? Because it's not our nature to be told. It's our nature to learn from evolution. It's our nature to fall down, make a mistake, and learn, oh, next time I ride my bike, I won't ride on that cobbled street that I fell on. I'd look for some more like kind of smooth cement. And there will be a consequence for my actions. Not to say that there's anything wrong with the 10 Commandments. I love those, studied that in depth. But what I mean to say is I'm more of a believer, if anything, in free will and the goodness of man without their programming. which leads them to believe that they're not good at all. So the principles, your core principles, what you stand for, find out what those are, and they're so different for everyone. It's weird. It always is that way. But live your life according to those principles, and they do not have to look like everybody else's or what mom would say was good for you. And remember, we have this like dash, you know, it's like I was born 1973. There's a dash. I'm going to die one day, and I have no idea when that'll be, but how to live my dash? You know, that dash is your life, and that is a life that matters. So please understand that. You know, I keep on repeating to people, this is going back to the most simple issues, which makes it so incredible. It's basic stuff. And it's been incredibly complicated by the minds of very, very, very forceful and incredibly controlling forces. You see, this is the nature of fear and control. It breeds more fear and more control. What do you want to say?
I have things to say. It's amazing. I have all this stuff to say. I really didn't expect it, but anyway. I love that precipice, the precipice of choice. That's brilliant.
Who said that?
You said that. I wrote it down. It's so freaking awesome.
Really?
Oh, you said it.
I didn't know they came out of me.
It came out of you. I made a point right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, yeah, I know. Our times are so confusing. What we are talking about is radical simplicity. If you don't know the difference between, if you seeing the difference between fear and love, absolutely being clear about what love is. How does love behave? You know, we got to this situation the way the world is now because people were confused about what love is, and they weren't doing anything about it. Anyway, so some practical tips here, some practical things you can do, we can do, okay? In terms of input from the news and from anything that's a negative source that depresses you, discourages you, scares you, okay? Keep it to a minimum, keep it to a balance. You know, the birds are still singing. The sun is still rising. Food still tastes good. We still love each other. We still, you know, remember that. Return back to the positive. Keep your foundation. Keep your stability. Don't be overwhelmed by external sources, whatever they may be. Okay, you are the guru. You are the authority. All right? And that's what our message is to you. So there is no other authority other than you. Okay? There really isn't. You're it. And so don't let any negative authorities of any kind influence you to the point that, you know, you lose track of your own well-being, the sense that even right now there is beauty here, love here, joy here. Understand that all of this trauma with the lockdowns and so on, this is trauma. It's trauma, global. That's why we're saying it's never happened like this before. And this is also a purge, but trauma leads to paralysis. Understand the psychology. You know, we took a look at 9/11 and what happened in those Twin Towers. Do you know that many people, after the first and second plane hit those buildings, they didn't do anything? They just sat there and repeated whatever they were doing, typing on their computer, shuffling some papers. They never left.
They were paralyzed.
They were paralyzed. They were in shock. So check with yourself. Am I in paralysis due to trauma? You know, and if you know, or other people that I know, friends, family, etc., or you know, what's going on? These are universal, eternal principles. How are people manipulated through trauma and through shock? Know that. Know that. Okay. So we can choose. Well, Ananda and I have talked about the back heart chakra, breathing in through the back and filling up and letting the love flow out. And you can start out, if that's a little challenging to feel that love, then start out with a positive, real life memory of something that was happy and loving, like playing with your dog or watching the sunrise or experiencing love with someone or feeling gratitude. Feel that, spread it in your heart, in your chest, feel that, put a smile on your face, and fill up with that love like a balloon, and spread that love or good feeling through your body, inside and outside. And if you do that every day for a while, you will be able to experience a wonderful state of love and bliss. And you can radiate this to the world. And you know, when people go, what can I do? What can I do? You can definitely do that. And it will make you feel wonderful. And you will be, that is the antidote. That is one form of the antidote to literally raise the vibration on the planet via filling yourself with love, contemplating, meditating on love, and sharing it and sending it out. Okay, it's tremendously powerful to do that. And anybody who has a question about how to do that, we have 2 videos on YouTube, and we're going to do more. We're going to write this book. It would be a very short book. We're going to write a book about the back heart chakra breathing. I don't know why we haven't done it yet, but we will. But anyway, if you have any questions or you want to share an experience with it, just send me an email or send Ananda an email. I want to say now, you know, people, I've talked to many people, many of my students, I've talked about the LOC on the surface of the planet. I'm not going to belabor this. It's not the LOC of individual human beings. It's not the LOC level of consciousness or level of clarity of the planet Gaia, the soul of the earth. She's always been at 1,000. But in my intuition, I am assessing progressively this radical change on the surface of the earth where human beings live, where human civilization is. So it's ahead of the curve. So this is the subtle, invisible changing of frequency of consciousness at the place where people live. And I am shocked to say that it was like, say, 200 something back at the early 1900s. And then it slowly went up. Guess where it's at now? It's at 965. And it's going to reach 1,000 this year. It's so fast, it's accelerating so fast. So what does it, so at 1,000 on the surface of the earth. Okay, this is my belief, this is my theory. So, you know, you can say whatever you want. It's just my experience and I believe it. But the implications of that are just mind-boggling. All of the structures, the politics, the governments, the corporations, the whatevers, the pyramids, okay, they were created when the consciousness on the earth was in the 100s and low 200s.
They can't survive.
What was a rock for at that time that they built their hierarchical pyramid-like structures, a few on the top and the many on the bottom being exploited and suffering. Okay, that foundation's gone. It is now quicksand. It is now water. So whatever happens, whatever takes place in the world over the next, we think, Ananda and I, we were talking about it recently, we think that maybe this will last till 2025, you know, maybe 2026, this cycle that we're in. This is the long haul that Ananda is talking about. But it's going to fall of its own weight because there is no existential spiritual support on the earth. Gaia, the soul of the earth, has said, screw this, screw you guys. I'm taking the vibration, the frequency of consciousness up to that of enlightenment on this planet. It's my body, my choice. And that's what she said. And that's what she's done. It'll be at 1,000 this year, December.
And you'll see a lot of people don't know what to do with that frequency. It doesn't feel normal to them. They feel uncomfortable. It doesn't, it's a change in frequency. You know, as we change in our individual frequency, then we're much more able to be in the different frequency. It's much harder to be in a very dense frequency. But as the frequency goes up, much easier for awakened people to deal with, not so easy for people that are not. It's fearful, it feels different, it's scary, it feels like everything's changing, and most people are just want to cling to their comfort zones. And I'm afraid to say that nothing grows in a comfort zone. Forget your comfort zones, they no longer exist. Think of it as an absolute blessing. Time to get uncomfortable, because that's when you grow. You know, most people are so terrified of growth. They're terrified of change. They're terrified of being themselves. The terror about everything, it's unbelievable. You know, so what happened?
I'm supposed to be plugged into
Oh, it's okay. We'll fix that. So anyway, are you guys busy typing in questions or any comments that you'd like to make? Let me see. Oh, there is some over there. I see there's 17. Are we good now?
yeah, that what you call it, electric bar, you know, it wasn't working, so the computer wasn't charging. So we're good though. Let me just check what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, we're plugged in now. What happened is the screen dimmed a little bit, and I said, no, what's going on there? But we're good now.
Should we take a look at questions?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've done a good job of covering everything.
Oh, one other thing. And I'll just say that for one other thing before we look at all of your questions. This does not mean that you passively sit back and allow everything to happen because everything just is and it doesn't matter. It's never mattered more. You're not going to sit back and accept it, because why would you? None of it seems to be making much sense. When your views aren't being respected and you don't have any freedom when it comes to your body, I truly suggest you make sure that you're living somewhere that is going to give you those freedoms, because they will be taken away from you. I don't know which way this is going to go, but I know it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And I'm just telling you what I think. Do I know it's true for sure? No, but it does look that way. From a very practical, realistic point of view, I'm not going to say to you that they're not going to come at you with boosters and maybe 10 other boosters, and who knows what else will be locked down, wearing masks on 3-year-olds for the rest of their lives. No, there is a stand you take when you say, as a person, as a mother, as a human, no, we don't want our children growing up like slaves with masks on. And if they're going to bring that to your city, move. Okay, that's my advice. We'll do the same thing. Trust me, we already are. We'll move from Sedona. We'll go wherever it means that I am going to live freely is where I will live. And when there's nowhere else to go, I guess I'll be stuck there. So I'm just saying to you people, you know, you have to take a stand about what's right for you and your families. And it's going to be different everywhere. And I don't know, you're all in different places, so it all kind of plays out and manifests differently. For those of you in Australia, it's an absolute nightmare right now, one that I wouldn't want to be living through, and it breaks my heart. It's unfair, it's wrong, it's like Nazi Germany, and I'm disgusted. I think it's appalling, I think it's disgusting. And I think every single politician in that country that is enforcing martial law, locking up their citizens for having a different opinion and creating camps for, like they're calling vaccination camps for those that have been not vaccinated, is a country that is becoming a nightmare. And that will be the future of every country if people don't stand up and remember that they are free. And that is happening now. So being awake doesn't mean you're not being really, really present to what's going on. This is it right now on this earth. And the earth means everywhere. and everything and everyone matters. So I just wanted to say that. I did not want this to be a satsang where I'm injecting any fear, because to be honest, I'm not scared at all. I'm pretty looking forward to fight whatever battle presents itself. You know, I mean, what can I do? But I will go down fighting.
Yeah, we've described the principles, and Ananda just expressed her position, and it's the same as my position. We've explained the principles, which are fear versus love. And so it's not a theoretical situation anymore. Now, every day, we're faced with what does it mean to make decisions and take actions based on fear or love. So if you know, we're not going to get into the details. She already just did. I mean, I could go on and on to myself.
I think everyone is well aware right at this point. And if you're not, I don't know what to say, but if you're not well aware of what's going on in this world, then I suggest you start doing a little bit of research, and then you will be well aware. But just make sure that you remember it's different in every country, and every single human being that lives in these other countries is also going through pain, or maybe fear. And the self means that if they have fear, so do I.
Yeah, they are.
Because that's the nature of compassion. I'm not separated from these people. They're part of who I am too. So if my freedom is worth fighting for, surely so is theirs. You know? But little I wants you to think I'm just a separated little me. There's nothing I can do. Who cares? And if every person on the planet does that and says that, which we've always done and said, and historically it keeps on repeating itself, then these forces of power, control, technology take over our lives. And then before long, we have lost the opportunity. That's why we're at the precipice of choice. So anyway, let's move to the questions.
Well, I just want to say two quick things about I just want to add, there's somebody that we have paid attention to as one of the books, Paul Selig. He talks about this time as the reckoning. Okay.
Brilliant word.
There's no other time like this time. There's never been a collective consciousness awakening of collective
Potential awakening.
Well, what's going to make it actualized in real? Us, her, me, and you. That's what we're talking about. The collective awakening is based on individual awakening. Individual awakening that has come full circle, integration and action, realistic. Like we're saying, the universal principles, but lived and applied fearlessly. So, you know, increase meditation, increase, you know, love, radiating love. Do that, do those kinds of things if you're overwhelmed. Okay. And okay, is there anything else? No, I think that's it. Okay. So, oh yeah, well, it's with regards to what does it mean for everything to be at 1,000 on the surface of the earth? Of course, the LOC of people will go up. The other thing is from our point of view, from my point of view anyway, it means the old structures cannot survive. So the people behind the old structures are trying to maintain their control, but they cannot.
Almost like a desperate push.
It's a desperate behavior. And does that? But guess what? We're not going to go back to the way it was either. Okay.
So that's up to us how we manifest next.
So love and freedom are up to us. Individual sovereignty, individual value and worth is up to us. So there's a collective awakening, and then there's an individual expression awakening. And there has never, one final point on that is there's never been a time, or certainly in this time, it is easier to awaken faster than in recorded history, and thus to integrate as an awakened person. So awakening is very important, but it can happen really, really fast now. And then that is a massive, huge way in which you can make a difference in terms of awakening consciousness and standing for consciousness, love, the divine on this planet is awakening yourself. Okay, that's a huge thing. That's what motivates us. One of the things that motivates us is we know that the more people we and the other RASA givers can awaken, that is a huge radical force for awakening on the planet to counteract any negativity or unconscious behaviors. Okay, very good. Let's go to the chat. Let's go to the top. Okay, so here we go. I saw a board on a bus in Germany, advertisement for the mask, that a mask says 1,000 words. How ridiculous, programming the mind through virtue signaling.
And anytime anyone comes up to you with an argument around mask wearing, on the box of these blue masks, it says they do not help in preventing the spread of a virus or an infection. It says it on the box. So, I mean, really.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we're not going to belabor this, but, you know, well put. That statement is well put. And
it is on the box. So that's a practical little thing.
Just look at the box. When you get your, if you buy a box of masks, just look at the box. Can you give an example of living in clarity between the absolute and the relative? Well,
there is no really between. You see, it's kind of weird talking about it because the absolute is the clarity, and the relative is the absolute, and the absolute is the relative. So I think it's a way to help you understand something that is an existential knowingness that comes as you wake up and you awaken, and then all these kinds of questions more or less drop because you realize that it's beyond a human explanation. But in the context of what Ramaji was saying, you know, that's on a very deep level. It's no, how would you?
I can explain it.
Okay, you explain it.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, what it means is, you see, the spiritual bypassing implies we're going to rise above the normal laws and rules and circumstances of being a human being. You know, maybe I can live without eating, I can levitate, fly through the air, you know, whatever. You know, this whole idea that the normal laws and rules of human existence will change, will be broken. No, they're not.
You know, it's funny, but I would say it's so interesting because even within this new age culture, which has hypnotized the planet over the last few years, and all these channels and these psychics, and when you stop and just use your own common sense, you recognize that did one channel, other than maybe the book of Revelation, but it's not exactly specific, ever say that this would happen? Can you see how this is, how manipulative even your spiritual advancement can look? Oh, this psychic said this. Really? So far, all the psychics I know look like a pile of crap to me. No one's, I mean, it never came close to what's going on now. Why is that? Because of what I've always said about the nature of such things. It depends on the collective. There are so many possibilities. And what we all focus on as a collective, what we all want as a collective will usually manifest. There's no way of knowing in a field of possibility, is there? But you can kind of look at the trajectory of where things are going based on what are the collective believing. Then it's quite easy to be a psychic, and anyone can. So what I'm trying to say to you, the discernment within your own spiritual kind of knowingness, this need for you to always look for a teacher that knows better than you or has to validate your own common sense. Can you see how that is taking also away from your power?
Well, let me try to answer that question one more time, then we'll move on just real quickly. So clarity about the absolute and relative means I know Like, let's say this was a bottle of rat poison that'll kill me if I drink it. I know this is God. I know it's true self. I know it's Buddha nature. I know it's Christ consciousness. Confusing the absolute and the relative means I think because I know it, because it's God, I can drink it. That's confusing the absolute and the relative. So having clarity about the absolute and the relative is to know that this is God, but to know that God or reality expresses itself through duality on this planet in this dimension. So that means extreme duality on this planet, from one extreme to the other, from really good to really bad, from delicious and positive to poisonous and deadly. Seeing that clearly, knowing that as a fact. So my body will not survive drinking the rat poison. Okay, that's being clear. I hope that is good enough, because
that's simple enough.
I mean, yeah, let's keep it simple. And okay, so it's a great question, and there's tremendous confusion in that area. Okay, particular tips on tapping into courage.
Yes, I have lots of tips for that. I would say the first tip is that whenever you are feeling scared, sit quietly and do the bullshit meditation. Understand that fear is not the problem. Your fear of your fear is. So when you confront something that is concerning, just feel concerned. Don't build a story. I am concerned. Allow the guests into the guest house. Another tip is that Rumi wrote the most exquisite poem called The Guest House. And most of the students I have printed it and use it all the time. In other words, I'm the guest house. Anything gets to come in. I'm not going to let my visitors stay at the, behind the door and just let them keep on knocking and not let them in because I'm scared of them. Rather, I'm going to let them in. And then you sit with whichever the guest is. The guest could be happy, sad, bad, this, that, or the other. Let it be there. And that's how it leaves. It never stops knocking otherwise. And once you do that for a while, you develop a kind of certainty in your own presence, the own self that is way bigger and way beyond all these silly feelings. It doesn't mean you're not going to feel them. Please don't mistake the fact that you know you're not them with mistaken that you don't want to feel them, because you do not want to numb out your feelings. Feelings give us that knowingness that we need. How do you know something's good? It feels good. How do you know something isn't? It doesn't. So when you know something is giving you a sense of fear, you know it's not for you. Avoid it at all times. And that's your guidance system. So you let the feelings and the emotions in, you let them out, and then you make a conscious decision about how to respond to each one from your own perspective and your own experience. And that will develop slowly. You become so good at that. And life tends to go on regardless of what you think you feel or think, that you develop a certain certainty in the self. I've stood, look at this. Look what we're going through, and I'm still here.
You develop a confidence in your own resilience.
You're still here. You cannot go anywhere.
Yeah, you give up control and instead choose to live. You choose to be here fully, totally in the now experience. And you can know it's true because it's spontaneous. So then you live spontaneously, no need for control anymore. Control is based on fear. So moving towards the experience, moving towards the feeling, really allowing it to flood your system. You develop confidence in your ability to roll with the punches.
And they are going to be punches. Just so you know, more punches than you probably expect.
At least nowadays, yes. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes, we're doing our best to be helpful. Okay, so we can expect, I think that is, political suppression methods to break down and vanish by 2025. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that, in my opinion, and I'm not exactly sure what Ananda's opinion is, but in my opinion, the this tidal wave we're experiencing, this negative tidal wave, as you say, suppression, political suppression, censorship, etc. I believe it will collapse of its own weight by 2025, 2026. So I just wouldn't say it's going to all break down and vanish, because we don't know what the hell the world's gonna look like by then. Some of you have seen for yourself, all of us have seen how rapidly things are changing and how so much that is happening was completely unexpected and unanticipated. And then also there is the possibility of between now and say 2026 and perhaps even 2030, some extraordinary earth changes, extraordinary earth events such as Edgar Cayce and others have predicted. Now, my personal feeling is, although a lot of that difficulty has been eliminated due to the rise of consciousness on the planet, nonetheless, I do think some of that is destined. So the world may change in ways that you think your mind is blown now? So whatever it looks like right now really is not an indicator of the way it's going to look like in the future. Now, we both believe there will end up being a positive outcome, a transformation, a spiritual transformation.
But my belief
on
is
this planet, but it's not going to happen without the purging, the detox.
things have got to collapse before they can be rebuilt. But
They're
again,
being totally
it's
rebuilt.
all going to depend on one thing. Actually, human consciousness. The earth's going to do what she does. How we react to what's going on and how we stand up for ourselves and others, that's what's going to change it.
Yeah, we're saying we can't just go, oh, it's all just going to happen because the divine power is going to fix it. We're saying no, 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 and no.
Are that divine power.
This is it now. Us, you, and we are it. And the actions we take, the decisions we make, the words we speak, this is the embodiment of it. The absolute, the divine is real all the time. That's not the question. The question is, will it be embodied? Will
we allow our freedoms to be taken from us? And if so, why? And if so, how could it ever make any sense?
Will we participate in the embodiment of that divine consciousness, that enlightenment? That's it. It's already here, but we have to embody it. And that's what we're trying to talk about today. Oh, thank you. Yes, such a powerful session, a lot to reflect on, define, and be clear about where we stand. Yes, thank you. That's exactly our goal here today. Thank you so much. It is disheartening that the matrix is being supported by otherwise decent people. On some level, they are okay, but on another level, they act like robots.
It's not that they're robots, it's that they have robotic consciousness. It's that old program that cannot see beyond their belief systems. Because in other words, the whole house of cards could come tumbling down. And so many people are afraid of that. And that's what most little eyes that start with us are so afraid of, that death. The death of thinking, oh my God, what I am or what I stood for, who I thought I was, actually isn't me at all. There's nothing, it's just a ton of beliefs there that kind of manufacture me each day. And I'm putting a lot of life force into that little fixated me, but does she exist? No. Well, therefore, how can any of those beliefs exist? And most people will cling to that with all their might because they need it to make sense of the world. But it's an old world. And this old world can only shift and expand into good, beautiful, new when we make different agreements about it.
You know,
and that's what's going to happen. And you know what, it really, you know, when I think about it, yeah, we're all going to feel emotional. We may have to move. Look at, I mean, the last thing I wanted to do was move. You know, I may have to move. We could be certain things we're going to do and not do in order to survive the coming years, because we know it's going to be rough. But that's okay, because I know that as long as there is hope and love and people like you out there, we're all going to be fine. And the more, and I'm telling you, people will start to catch on. They already are. It's obvious. If they haven't caught on, then they're in complete denial. You know, and again, it's like, hear no evil, see no evil, you know, speak no evil. That's the meaning of denialism.
So, yes, well put. Decent people acting like robots. Now, I want to point out, remember, we're talking about universal principles today and principles that have been around a long time. You tell me, what about when there was a king or a queen or a prince or a dictator? How many times have we had that in human history, and how did the people act? They acted like slaves, obeying authority without question, obeying authority out of fear. It's the same freaking thing right now.
And then they did another thing.
It's always been that way. So obeying authority blindly,
It's blind authority.
unfortunately, has been a human trait of the mass of the people for many thousands of years. What we're seeing now is it's so obvious. It's being totally expressed, but just look beyond the appearances of today and ask yourself, how has the human race behaved? Has it not been willing to just give into authority? So yes, we're seeing that now, but now it's super obvious.
Just so obvious.
Okay, and we see the consequences of that now. Okay,
But
it wasn't
remember,
okay before, but it's really not okay now.
Understand though, the greatest way that these people and this kind of force of control and kind of evil works is that as long as they get the people to divide amongst each other, then we are not looking at the real cause of the problem. There's some people will stay in that robotic consciousness. Remember, you love them and you respect their choice. You have to act the way you want to be treated. You can't disrespect their choice and then expect them to respect yours. Doesn't work that way. So look at the triggers of ways of, if anything, the little I loves to be right. The little I loves to be grandiose. The little I always needs to get its way. And the last thing, and you know what, if something presents you with an opportunity to kill your little I, in other words, maybe I'm not always right. Maybe I can develop some humility. Maybe I can't be grandiose in this particular, event. So be it. Thank those times that kind of make you small, because that smallness doesn't exist. So you want your little I to be uncomfortable. You want your little I to feel its smallness, because then the bigness wakes up. You can't, the little I will never wake up. You awaken from it. You're not it, because it doesn't exist. See, so when you embody that, you're not even embodying the same person. And what I believed yesterday, I don't even remember what that was. What does it even matter? I believe new things today. There was another thought I had, Who gives a shit about my thoughts?
What you said, Ananda, about division, I've been thinking about that a lot, like what happens with the media and the various influences. What I'm saying is, so let's go back to the most fundamental question. What is love? Is love going to be aggressively dividing people, blaming people, blackballing people, etc.? No. So what do we know about that behavior, whether it's coming from a newscaster or a politician or somebody else? What do we know? It's not love. That's not how love operates. And unfortunately, here in America, people have lost track of what love is. And so they don't even see that this aggressive division of people is not love. And so what does stand for love mean? It means you can sit, for the bottom line, the most basic is you can see that's not love. So you don't want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of that which will heal division, heal the split, lead to harmony. And you're not going to get on that soapbox with all those people. This is not a political thing. This is like, what is love? And what does love in action look like? And as Ananda said, it does not control. And that means that you, even if you don't agree with somebody else, you are not here to control them. That is not love. You respect their choice. You do not try to control them. Love supports the other person and their choice. And, that's what matters here.
Also will warn them if they think they're going to be like driving over
Absolutely.
a cliff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And
all right, let's go on here. I
understand the frustration, though. I do.
Will we receive some help against this tyranny, and from where, or are we on our own? Okay, it's not an either or. Okay.
You are the help.
We understand. There's a saying. Apparently, I've heard this in Arab countries. Trust in Allah and tie up your camel. Trusting in Allah meaning, will we get this help, perhaps spiritual, supernatural, divine, from the center of the galaxy, from a solar flare, divine solar flare, God knows what. Okay, I think we might. I really do. I really think that could happen. But if we fall for a psyop that says somebody else is going to rescue us, something else, or maybe it's going to be the ETs, right? I'm not saying any of that.
Oh, hold on a second. I want to add something.
But I want to say it is, we act as if it's all up to us and trust that the divine power is ultimately behind this and is ultimately going to achieve its goal of enlightenment on this planet. Yeah, go ahead.
You're part of that divine power. Again, the opportunity stops being an opportunity the minute you need somebody else's help. The opportunity is to know who you are. That's the spiritual opportunity we have here. Not the reason we have authorities in this world is because of that belief that somebody else needs to help us. We can't do it ourselves, so we need Big Brother to tell us what to pay, what to do, and where to go. Can you see what Big Brother's done here? It's a system falling apart. You're the authority. So you respect your own and others. We stop needing to, God. I have the greatest story about a rabbi who was standing in an ocean. He was about to drown and he kept on saying, God's going to save me. The first thing that came past was a boat. And they were begging him to get on. No, God's going to save me. And he stayed there. He was basically like drowning away. The next thing, God sent another kind of like little man on a yacht, on a little he was a rower. And he rowed up to him and said, dude, get on. No, God's going to save me. The next thing, a helicopter flew by. And they were literally throwing out the ropes, begging him, please, God's going to save me. And eventually a big whale came and ate him and he drowned. And when he got to heaven, he asked God, dude, I was waiting for you to save me. I had all this faith. And he said, what a fool. I sent you a boat. I sent you a yacht. I sent you a helicopter. But unfortunately, the whale got indigestion. And here we are. In other words, we're all here as part of God to help and save each other as a humanity. And if the aliens want to join, whether they exist or not, I don't know. I've never seen one or experienced one. But hey, I'm up for it if they want to join the human clan. If I were them, I'd run a mile and stay away, because I would think to myself, what would I want to do with these bunch of buffoons who don't even know who they are? Would you want to hang out with us?
So the awakening, the spiritual awakening, doesn't mean you float up above the human condition. It means you recognize your value, your worth, that you are royal, that you are noble, and you are the authority. You're the authority. Claim it. That's what this means. It's not some airy-fairy bullshit. It's right now, claim your authority. Nobody else gets to tell you what to do. Nobody else. Okay, so we each individually claim our authority from the divine as being one with God or source or whatever you want to call it.
And that's the certainty.
And that's it. That's the connection inside, and then through what our actions. That is the living connection that is got the best chance of manifesting quote unquote help from the outside. So yeah, trust in Allah, trust in God, and tie up your camel and act as if it's all up to you. Okay?
Believe me, God's rooting for us.
God's here. God's behind it all.
He's rooting for us every step of this journey.
It's like a little boy, when a child is learning to walk, you every time he falls down or she falls down, they've got to go through that in order to learn to walk on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So the divine, even though the divine is here, we are, as the human race right now, we're stumbling, we're falling, but we can't be rescued and avoid the responsibility of awakening, we have to fall down in order to get back up again. Okay. I mean, I think once you tune into this in your own way, you will realize this is actually a tremendous opportunity.
Beyond.
You know,
and that's where the excitement from it all comes from.
Okay, what is recommended resource for research in regards to what's going on? Well, personally, I would say send an email to me or Ananda, because we don't want to get into that kind of stuff here today, but we're very happy to dialogue with you via email.
And if you ever look on any of my newsletters, I don't know if they're still there or where they are, but you can always look. I give so many different
references, links, videos,
all sorts of research going back from March last year. The average LOC of the humanity is oh, yeah.
I'm doing it right now. I mean, she and I don't agree. But my opinion is it's gone up from
of the humans.
Yes, the human beings. Yes, I know what the question is. And it used to be whatever, 200, 210, 220, 30, 40. I personally think it is now at 300.
Maybe you're right.
Because remember, it's an average. That doesn't mean everybody's there. Because the more people that go to 1,000 or become awakened in non-duality, whatever words you want to use for that, they balance out all of the dumbos. Okay, so it's like a bell curve. The more people that are enlightened, that are bringing the light.
But they're not really dumb, of course.
Okay, well, they're
just not clear.
Okay, all right, you're right. It was kind of a poor choice of words. They're not ultimately dumb, but they're, you know, like that person said, robots. They're not awake. I don't know. I cannot answer that question, how many are at 1,000. But I will say this, more and more and more.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yes, thanks, Patrick. I saw a new psyop going on the internet. It says, quote, I have a healthy distrust of authorities and I am vaccinated.
But you know, there's some, okay, that's not believed.
You know, I mean, a person.
It is funny, there is humor in that, but you know, that's his choice.
That's, yeah, I mean, that is his reality, I think. You know, this is great today and gives me hope, despite it's not Australia. Here in Hamburg, it's getting quite uncomfortable right now.
I know. Yeah,
you know, there is something like, okay, nobody wants to have a fire or say burn their house down. Nobody. However, if there's a fire in your house, then you respond, and in that responding, there is a new aliveness and a new possibilities. So this is understanding, this is how to use, what we're talking about today is how to use what is really happening and alchemically transform it into an elixir of aliveness, of conscious, responsible, loving action.
Okay, but she's asking you, is there a question? She's uncomfortable right now, and I too feel that. I feel it for the collective. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people right now.
Oh, okay, I didn't get that. I got the
you know, so I'm trying to get practical. What can you do?
Well, that's what we're doing.
You know, I would say whatever life presents you with, it's giving you a warning signal in some way. You know, so I would say do whatever you need to feel safe and that your freedoms aren't going to be completely taken from you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's, when you face the fact that it really is a fire,
it's a fire,
then that response that is based on reality will lead to a freedom that you will not have if you deny the reality of the fire.
No, you know,
okay?
Yeah.
We live in time.
There was an amazing talk about the Jews in World War II and how many people warned them. And they got so many warnings, and the rabbi said to them, oh, don't worry about it. All this great spiritual teachers, you know, stay here, God will look after us. And all the people that were telling them to run a mile and get out, and they didn't because they thought God was going to save them. Guess what? When there is a warning signal of danger, then do something about it. That's your warning signal. It's either going to be super loud or it'll just come to you in the form of, this doesn't feel good anymore.
Yeah, we're not telling you what to do. We're saying to you, do not be the ostrich who puts his or her head in the sand. Wake up. The tidal wave is coming. The tidal wave is here.
And it's only just begun.
Don't live in a fantasy world and don't live in the past. Do whatever your conscience, your heart, your soul, your essence tells you to do.
For yourself.
Follow your inner guidance, your inner emotional feeling guidance. We're not telling you what to do, but be true to yourself and do not make decisions based on fear.
Ever. Wait rather. Wait until a different mood comes.
Okay, so we think it's time for
the RASA now.